aiwa zvinazvo kuita mangwana mogadzirira vanenge vari free between 1 and 3 o'clock tiite lecture masikati as well zvinotibatsira kucover ground because syllabus yedu yakati kurei. Alright, so our topic for today alright, so Prudence, kunzwa feedback, so I have to mute you. Alright, that's fine. Alright, ndakushare screen yangu now. Kana kuri kunzi pane feedback yauda kutipa Prudence, what you do is unoita sei uno unmute then communicate, maybe usingondinzwa zviri clear and all that. Alright, that's fine. So nhasi tinoda kubata informal organization. Chii chinombonzi informal organization? So we have the formal organization, and the formal organization has a structure. It has a pattern which is already predetermined. Regatoni formal organization structures. Only what we mean. So we need pictures here. All right. So normally formal organization inenge yakaita seizvi zvatiri kuona panapa izvi. Let me get something that is easy to explain. Yeah. So is a good example of the formal organization structure. Zvitori predetermined zvakati agreewa with the whole company kuti the structure that you are going to have is like this, and this structure is what we are going to follow. All right, I'm just waiting for it to show on my screen. Okay, so let me open the image in the new tab and zoom. All right. So as you can see, pane pakatonzi MDs, the one at the top, poita legal advisor, zvichidzika zvichidaro. That's the formal organization. And in a formal organization, vari kubottom ava havakwanisi kungomhanya straight kuna MD. Vanotofollowa this pattern kuti message yavaite sei isvike kuna MD. However, in this formal organizational structure, in a formal organization, alongside of it exists the informal organization. And this informal organization, it arises from relationships that will be formed by employees at work. Those interpersonal relationships, kumhoresana kwatinoita kubasa, kumba kuri sei, iri sei ACCA, kumacanteen, mumacorridor, kumasports ekubasa, etc. Ndo zvinozoita kuti pange paine an informal organization exist alongside the formal organization. So what does it consist of? So an informal organization consists of social relationships, informal communication networks, behavioral norms, and power influence structures, all of which may bypass formal organizational arrangements. So these informal organizations, they can either benefit the organization or they can either be detrimental or cause negativity to the organization. Pane zvakanakira, pane zvakashatira, tichazvibata. However, chandoda kuti mubate, it's not just the informal, the social relationships that are found at work. Kana tutonyema informal relationship organization, tikutaura futi about the informal communication channels. I need to get a clearer picture of what I want to illustrate here. this one. Okay, good. So pane inoyi panapa iyi. Let me, okay. Ndida ku-illustrator. Very good. So this is an example of a formal organization, and as we said, formal organization in a vertical communication protocols, it can be top down or both ways, from bottom to up or top to down, whatever it is there. So but kana manje isirichi kana iri informal organization amuteedzerwi the formal communication channels dzekuti kana operative ane chaari kuda kusvitsa kuna department head anofanira kutanga apfuura kuna supervisor ozosvitsa. In the informal organization, an operative can actually communicate with the president directly. Ndopari kunzi inoita bypass the informal channels that are there. All right. And also in the informal organization, as you can see, per formal organization, there is a president. It means there is a leader. Leaders also exist, informal leaders also exist in the informal organization. Informal organization manje zvasiyana. Leader anenge asitombori kana president. Leader anogona kunge atori a lower level employee kana gadi agarisa makore pakambani anoziva zvakawanda. Ndiye anenge achilida in the informal organization, achitolida pamwe masupervisor chaiwo in the informal organization. All right. Let's proceed there. So, as we said, how do they arise? They arise because people are working together, people are forming relationships at work, and they are also forming ways of doing things. So we share together. And also what you need to note is that the informal organization is loosely structured, it's flexible, and it's spontaneous. Embrace mechanisms akaita so informal organization. Sorry, let me just pick this call. Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? Prudence, can you hear me? Prudence, pane kabhatani aka kandiri kuratidza nemouse yangu aka. Joka unopressa ikako if you want to unmute. Aka. Ane mouse yangu aka. Good.
Yeah, okay, I see it.
All right. Urukundinzwa nditi?
Yeah, it's very clear.
Fine. All right. So you can mute to process. All right. So what are the mechanisms that are embraced by the informal organization? So the informal organization embrace the following: social relationships and groupings, and kutaura nyaya, kuwirirana kuita magrupu, etc. Within or across formal structures, anditika. Then the grapevine or the bush telegraph or the informal communication. Iyo grapevine makuhwa epabasa, tunyaya tunenge tuchitaurwa pabasa, wona ninga nakadana nabosi, wona akatengera mota inyiwa neboyfriend yake, wona ari kuzodana nezidhara. All that is also embraced in the informal organization, in as much as it is not good, because grapevine ndo inoita kuti informal organization kazhinji isenge ichipa negative effects to the organization. But anyway, it's also embraced in the informal organization. Kumabasa kune tumakuwa tunenge tuchingoitika so this bush telegraph or grapevine or informal communication bypass the formal reporting channels and routes. Then also the informal organization, it embraces behavioral norms and ways of doing things, both social and related. So what do we mean by embrace behavioral norms? What we mean is that kana muri kubasa vanoenda kubasa, I'm sure you can understand, especially kana musinza makawanda. Ini ndinosinza ndiri one, but ndakambosinzawo, I remember pataisinza takawanda. Apart from kunzi lunch, munonzi lunch yenyu 1 to half 1, anditika you could even also have your way of just doing things kubasa kwenyu, e.g. kubuda mese muchinotenga lunch kwamashwede, sharing your breakfast, kufamba mese muchienda kumba kumirirana, all those things ndodzatingotaura kuti the informal organization embrace futi these norms and ways of doing things. It can be social or it can even be work related, e.g. kutowirirana chaiko kuti you know what, pakaita customer tinoseva so customer, iwewe unoseva makastoma kusvika nguva dzakati, munoseva nguva dzakati, that teamwork there, it's also embraced by the informal organization. However, these norms or ways of doing things, sometimes they can actually bypass the formal procedures and systems. Sometimes it can be good, e.g. pamwe mune makapiwa, my instruction amunonoti aya anototora long, you can wira not, you know what, this can actually help to serve customers better. But sometimes these ways of doing things at work can even be for the bed of the organization. Why? Because munokonoita maprocedures enya muri kuwirira mufunga kuti muri kugona achidriver business away. So new members that join the organization, in as much as they are learning zvebasa, they also have to learn how things are done in the informal organization. First days unogona kusvika pamwe nemukomana kwanenge achipota chikuendesa kunandosi palunch, unopota uchaushora uchienda kulunch, but unozongoona wega kuti you know what, vanhu vanongotorana chiri chigroup, woenda kupi, woenda kwamashwede nai. Power or influence structures, they are also embraced in the informal organization. Like I said, there are also leaders, there are also informal leaders there in the informal groups. Pane vanototeererwa zviriko kumabasa, ndofunga munozviziva. I remember my first job, I always give an example. There was a guy who had worked in the organization for so long. He was just a cleaner and a cook. This guy knew almost everything. He knew about vanhu vakaenda kudhara vakafa, he knew everything. And aitoteererwa chero neadmin, chero nemaaccountants aitoudzwa muoffice kuti vakuru zvamada kuita izvi zvakaendesa nhingi. He just had influence even kuma managers, even kuma team leaders and all that. But he was the lowest employee per organizational structure. Tomboti kunoku tukuti pastructure yedu panapa ndiye wati kuti anenge ari operative, but he had his influence kune vanhu vatori above him in the informal organization. So yes, these power influence structures, they do exist, and they are informal leaders who are trusted and who are looked for advice in the informal organization. So chii chinoita kuti pange pane informal leader? Informal leader? Maybe just a second there. I just want to get some notes. Informal leaders, how do they arise? Just a quick one there. All right, because Naganda. Let me just minimize my screen there. All right, katuni panapa. Yeah. Mukacheka panapa. An informal leader is an individual within an organization that is viewed as someone worth listening to due to their perceived experience and reputation among peers. The informal leader does not hold any position of formal authority or power over the peers, choosing to follow their lead but can influence the decision of others. Ndo ma-informal leader tikutaura nezvawo aya. So sometimes munhu anogona kunzi informal leader. Munhu anogona kunzi informal leader because of age. Handitika? Munhu anogona kunzi informal leader because of physical attributes. Anogona kunge ari tall, ari beautiful, things like that. Experienced employee, highly skilled employee, what else there? What else? Chingagona kuti munhu ange ari, anogona kunge ari a good orator, munhu anogona kutaura, people like that, etc. So those zvinokonzesa ma-informal leader, and like I said, hazvisi kuda kuti atomboappointwa naanyone. Ariser because of who that person is, ane ma-characteristic or ma-qualities ainenge ainawo. So ndo vanhu vanonge vachiteererwa ivavo. Even muofisi kwemukadonotoro chakati, ivavo vakataura vanhu ivavo kazhinji ndo vanoteererwa. So ndosikatati isusu informal groups, informal organization, it's good for the organization, but sometimes it can cause the demise of the organization. Benefits or the role of the informal organization yakanakira chita daubata zvakanakira informal organization zvachayakashatira. So ma-benefits, employee commitment. Kubasa, remember there's always that time yekuti we spend most of our time at work. So kubasa kunomita ma-social needs ema-employees through the informal organization. Zvinocontribute to morale of the employee, to job satisfaction, and ultimately zvinozolida to reduced absenteeism and labor turnover. Kubasa kukanakidza kushanda, hakurovheke, hakusiyike, But then makaita organization kuti hainawo informal organization, hamubvumidze ma-employees kuwirirana, hamubvumidze kuti vaite anything chinoita kuti ma-interpersonal needs amitwe or ma-social needs amitwe. Onai mazuro akatora nyaya ma-social needs. Panoita absenteeism, panoita reduced labor turnover. So kuva nema-informal organization kunosekiwa employee commitment. Knowledge sharing. Yes, there is knowledge that is shared within an organization through my procedures, formal procedures and controls, my employee handbook, whatever it is, my manual. There's that information that is available. Maybe even training amunitwa nema-supervisors in the formal structure. But in my information, much of the information in the organization, sometimes inotoshayiwa through informal networks. Munhu wese panopinda basa munomita training, but azvinozvinzwa mamuudza patraining azvibata, anotozovhunza ma-peers ake, shamwari apa ndoita sei apa, naye apa panoitwa sei, zvakuitwa ma-informal organization. Munhu ari kubatsira munhu amunombobvera mamapointa kuti unofanira kubatsira nyingi. The assumption is once maita training yenye induction and ma-systems and what munhu abata. So that knowledge sharing is important. That availability of information through informal networks, it gives a wider perspective of their role in the task and the organization, which stimulates the big picture problem solving, cross-boundary cooperation, and innovation. Then speed. Mukacheka formal organization in its procedures and protocols, like I said before, operative kana relay information, kwanisa kubenefita at the strategic apex level, the top management level. Information yacho inototanga yatobva kuna operative yoenda kuna supervisor, yabva kuna supervisor yoenda kuna department head, yoenda kuna vice president yozosvika kuna president. So imagine a situation whereby there's something that requires quick reaction. By the time this information gets to the president, it could be too late. There could be losses already. So that's why we are saying the informal organization has an advantage of speed to the organization. Informal networks and methods may sometimes be more efficient in achieving organizational goals, where the formal organization has rigid procedures or lengthy communication channels like I highlighted, which enables decisions to be taken and implemented more rapidly. Take note of that. Then also responsiveness. The directness, information richness, and flexibility of the informal organization may be particularly helpful in conditions of rapid environmental change. Especially in Zimbabwe, there was a period when the rates would change almost every day, weekly, my rates are kungochinja. So it would be very easy kuti mari mushopu akaona kuti shuga yakututwa handiti anongonzwawo kana pafoni mani chinja kutota mana rate rakutochinja mana ngatihodhe magrosari nemari yandinayo wati handitika iwewe through the informal organization, because hapana marigid communication structures hauti kana uriwo pari tiumbodza painformal unogona uchitowirana napresident wacho because munotamba mese bhora after work handiti, kana kuti munogona muri kuenda kuchechi kumwe chete, kana kuti munogona musangana kusalon whatever, but you have a relationship yamakafoma outside the formal organization. You can easily just call the president. I think ngatimirei kutengesa sugar, pane holding ida kuitwa, pane wada kutenga toti rate what, something like that. And this responsiveness is what businesses require. Then cooperation. Cooperation inouya pakuti because vanhu vane marelationship avanawo, vanenge vachitaura kuri sei kumba, vana vari sei, murume wangu azodai, chakati seni nhasi andakumbiswa pastatus ibedzi rangu, dai zvendinomusenzana endi kutotaura naye, ona handina kuiswa, taura don't worry uchasurprise after work. Mimi wane birthday nhasi kana ndongofunga kuti pamwe ndifane kasurprise kari kudenda. Anyway, knowing my husband is not like the obvious surprise type. So cooperation inouya mukutaura tunyaya tatinenge tichitaura kuti handiti. So now I want to give a very good illustration. Mukuwirirana kwamunenge muchiita, even from different departments, it will be very easy for me ndichibva kumarketing ndichitaura saka shamarika, I know budget yedu inenge yakupfuuridza, but ndine client yekuti iyo tikaibata iyoyoka tinoita mari, and also it will be good for my record, because tomboti Julie ndosenzane akuziva nhamo dziri kumba kwangu, ndinoona robhadhira mafees, maybe my mom is sick, whatever it is chiripo, not saying that she's sick, anokasika you know what, it's okay, I'll write a note, ndopiwa mari ndobva ndanoita lunch neclient tosecure business. But kana pasina that interpersonal relationship, something that is beyond the business, shamari ona budget, Julie will just say, you know what, your budget has been exhausted for this week, so client better next week, but my clients anomira next week mangani. So apazofambe basa harizofambi, yet we require cooperation in the organization for things to work out. So the formation and strengthening of interpersonal networks can facilitate team working and coordination across organizational boundaries. It may reduce organizational politics or even utilize this positivity by mobilizing effective decision-making coalitions and bypassing communication blocks. So paninyaya, the term that I love is the reduction of organizational politics, which is eliminated, or which is facilitated by the availability of the informal organization. Let's move on to the managerial problems. Anombokonzeresa chima informal organization. In as much there are positive things that come from them, there are also negatives. So social groupings may act collectively against organizational interest. Handiti? Kuwirana kweinformanje kunozopfuuridza manje. Zotozokanganisa basa. Munopesa makwirana zvisizvo. Parikunzi ipo, what we need to meet this target. Kana kuti even though makangogara client inogona kuuya mururama muchingotaura nyaya musi kuseva client. That's what we are talking about there. This is done zvinouya through these collective point information networks. Handitika. So sometimes it might take a lot of time and energy away from a task. Then the grapevine anambotonika makuwe pabasa aya amune muchareva arudanana nedhara ona arinenge arudanana nabosi, all that information. Sometimes it's notoriously inaccurate, handitika, and it can actually carry morale damaging rumors, e.g. onzi woruda nabosi kana kuti ruda nedhara, all that pabasa pacha pazoshandike nayo. So sometimes it can now lead to low labor, to high labor turnover. You can lose a very good employee because of such things. Then also, informal organization, it can become too important in fulfilling employees' needs. Munhu akutofila kuti what, ndikasawirana neshamwa dzangu dzepabasa hazvizondifambire zvakanaka, at the expense of what the organization requires. So a good example, munhu anogona ari supervisor, but ari kunyanyowirana nemajuniors ari kufanira kunge achisupervise, but nekuva neimportance inenge yaane informal organization to fulfill the needs of that supervisor, anozopedzisira asasaite zvaari kuitwa required for by the formal organization. Then also, imwe disadvantage there, munhu anotadza kuzobelonga to the informal organization, an individual that feels excluded from the informal organization might actually suffer, ane low self-esteem, zvinogona kupedzisira kurovha futi kubasa, utosiya basa, because kubasa kwacho hapana vari kuwirana nawo. Tomboti unoziva ukaita problem yekuti wosvika pabasa panoitwa zvemabrazilian nemaperuvian, nemaiphone 8 plus, apa iwe unenge une zvako aito, sorry kana panoshandisa 81 handisi kushora uendi ndinongotaura zvangu. Hazvipere mushe kumba pamwe uri unyazori mari yangu yakamira kuti baba oda unotumirwa grosari, una hanzvadzi ida kubhadhira fees, woda kubhadhira chikoro, ava vanenge vachingobleswa kana kuti maybe pamwe ane marich husbands or rich boyfriends. So you might suffer, and then it can actually lead to demoralization. Yet we want my employees vane high morale. All right. Then also, informal work practices may cut corners, violating safety and quality assurance measures. So supervisor vayofanira kunge vachimeka shoti mushop floor, vanhu vari kupinda vakapfeka ivo mahelmet, vanhu vari kupinda ivo vakapfeka magoogles, safety clothing. But what happens manje, supervisor prudence vaita sei vakuwiranaka nemajunior, Grace anobva akanganwa zvake helmet, but Grace futi kuti aende kumba hazviiti because nyaya dzemahours dzekushanda dzinozonetsa. So unozongona prudence it's okay chingoshanda zvanhasi, but panozoita major accident ndobva ndatemwa nesomething musoro ndobva ndacollapse, haasi prudence achapinda patight, ikampani inopinda patight. So you can even be sued, a lot of things can even happen, you might even lose your shareholders, suppose munhu pamwe atozofira pabasa, all that. So it affects you as what? As an organization there. Okay, but now I think we've talked of the advantages of the informal organization. Now we want to talk about, we talked of the problems, but can we now say, because zvine problems, let's do away with the informal organization? No, we can't. What we just need to do as managers is to minimize my problems. By the way, Prudence, when I'm teaching you these things, I'm teaching managers. So managers can minimize these problems caused by the informal organization, because tamboti isusu informal organization might meet the needs of the employees more than the formal organization. Zvinozokonzeresa employees from suffering acutely, or employees from not doing their job so that they just want to belong in the informal organization. So what can you do to minimize that problem? The organization now needs to meet the employees' needs as far as possible via the formal organization. Can information provide the information that is required? Can encouragement encourage your employees, your subordinates? Can social interaction ivaiwo maybe those facilities in the organization and so on? Then also you can even harness the dynamics of the informal organization. Panepti, let's do away with the informal organization. No, embrace it. E.g., you can use tomboti murikono the informal organization yakushanda collectively against the success or the progress of the organization. You can use my informal leaders to secure commitment to goals or changes. A good example, maorders enyakwira, high demand for your products. So how can you meet the demand? Pakuda shift work, vanonga vachimbosenza from 8 to 5 voenda kumba, handiti? But now you need people who work masikati nemanheru, but you just can't have vashandi vekungoti ava ndeve masikati ava ndeve manheru. You need a balance. But doing that manje munajara kusenza during the day anogona kuramba. Mukaenda muri management munotanga kuzonda in contract yangu yakazoti yakati, and sometimes you might even lose valuable employees. So what can you do? That informal leader noteerwa that low level employees, that cleaner, whatever, anyone who is the leader, identify the informal leader. Vadaidze kuoffice sekuru magirazi makadi tiripo zvedu wakadi kumwanangu aiva seko vazukuru aiva vari nani zvavo. Sekuru, tauya nechirongwa chakanaka panapa. Demand yedu yakwira zvisingaiti, ende kukwira kwayaita kuchataura kuti iko masalari evanhu achakwira zvakanaka, pei dzevanhu dzichakwira, kuno mazuva anenge achiteera hamuzotora kuti mbozi musati makuziya vanhu vanenge vachisenzawo manheru vachange vachiwana mabhonasi zvekuti vanhu vachatanga kuvakawo mastendi kuti saka takuda kuintrodusa manight shift. Vanenge vachisenza manheru vanenge vachiwanawo kamari kakati kupfura masikati. Asi hatisi kuzoti ava ndeve manheru chete ava ndeve masikati, vanhu munei muchiroteta mese. Saka chanchikumbiro chirongwa ichi, handiti munotudziro vamwe venyu vapfa nechidiki sekuru kubva vaonekwa kudaro, so apa munobva madedza munhu anobika tii, mobva mati avapewo tii, musuwo munova pamunodova dedzo vanopiwawo tii yakakora yamunonwa nemabhisiketi amunodya aya. Sekuru vachibuda imomo vanonzwa kufara zvisingaiti because mavari kunaisa. Anenge ari munhu wepasi pasi but mavari vanosvika vachinodeidza munhu wese vachimudzoti akomana, ngatitotange toti tosenza manheru panapa, pane chirongwa chakanaka, all that, and your goal is achieved. But ukada kungozonoti ndini manager ndinofanira kuteererwa, mamwe magoals haachievwi, handiti? So you can harness the dynamics of the informal organization. Another tip there, I learned when I was doing business studies A level. Ndeyekuti iyo, pane issue yegrapevine, handiti? So what do? Pane lomo rawo gunun'una. So office cards dzinocleanwa kaidzi, unongoisa uri manager ungoti proposed salary increment by 30% or 50%. Imimi chamuri kuda muda kuti maorder pamunyatsono pane maorder muda kuti afambe, but vanhu nefeeling yavainayo izvozvo pana order yekufamba, unongochisiya patable chingori chipepa chakanzi proposed. But cleaner manje haazonyatsoziva manje, the dynamics of proposed and what actual what and even kuti vabvumwa here. Anongosvika ototaura kumana tiri kuidzirwa pei, vakomana panoshandwa, handiti? Ndokwainesa the dynamics the informal organization. Then involve managers themselves in the informal structure. Involve managers themselves in the informal structure. So musasangoziti tima manager tiassociate blend in kana ari macanteen garai mese makawanda, go to sports together, mix and mingle, so that they support information sharing. It even breaks down manyovu rules. Hamanaka yekusapinda yekupinda muworkshop usina yeumedi aiwa chakati, just sharing that information, muchibreaka down whatever that needs to be broken down. All right. So exam focus point there. Culture impacts on other topics such as motivation, leadership, and teams. It is also an important and fashionable topic in its own right, including the influence of national cultures with increasingly globalist management. So tichazotaura zvedu nyaya topic yeculture mberuko. Group norms. So kana chiranyema group, I'm always talking of WhatsApp groups. My WhatsApp groups atajaira nditi. So a work group establishes norms or acceptable levels and methods of behavior to which all members of the group are expected to conform. This group attitude will have a negative effect on an organization if it sets unreasonably low production norms. Groups often apply unfair treatment or discrimination against others who break their rules. I'm sure you know my groups is acceptable levels of behavior, my methods of behavior, or my norms, how things are done. Muma groups mune instruction, musaite network marketing, musatumire chain messages, don't forward vulgar, don't forward porn. That's the same thing with my work groups. It's the same thing. And the attitude of the group, it can have a negative effect on an organization because the group cannot have a bad attitude, panito low production. But if it has a positive attitude, panito good production. And my groups would apply our unfair treatment or discrimination. Kuno break my rules. If you break rules, you'll be discriminated. Zvamfana paWhatsApp ukabreka marules unombopuwa warning, vanhu vanogona kutanga kuigirwa magood morning ako kana unogona kubuditswa mugroup macho, handiti? So norms, the general nature of group pressure is to require the individual to share in the group's own identity and individuals. So the whole purpose of my groups is for the individuals or the group members kuti vange vachi identify themselves, vachizova neumwe with the group, handitika, not kuti vane ma-opposing behaviors with the group. However, individuals in the groups, they can react in three ways: to the group norms and the customs, or to the methods of behavior, or to the group rules. It's either they can comply, and compliance, that's towing the line without true commitment; internalization, full acceptance and identification. So per compliance unongoteedzera kuti arega nongoteedzera mutemo. That's what I mostly do sometimes, kungoteedzerawo mutemo but without commitment. Vamwe pane zvandiri kungodawo handisi kuda kuzosarira. Or you can internalize, you are fully accepting and identifying yourself with that group. Or other individuals can counter conform, and that's what my husband normally does. He rejects the group, or anogona kutorejecta manorms emugroup or marules. Muri kunzi musaposte zvinhu 20 iye anoramba achiposta, So those are the three actions in which an individual can react to the group norm or the customs or the rules. It's either they comply or they internalize or they counter conform. Chii chinokonzeresa these actions? Sometimes munhu anobehave in a manner because the issue is not clear cut. Whatever it is that you want to discuss in the work group, it's not clear cut, it's not clear, or the individual lacks support for their own attitude or behavior. And also munhu agone kurejecta group racho. No one is supporting their own attitude or behavior. Counter conformity is there, inobva yaitika. Or the individual is exposed to other members of the group for a length of time. Those nogona kuti munhu acomply kana kuti internalize, handiti? So how can you enforce my norms or my rules to members of the group? You can first do identification. You can use badges, you can use symbols. Zvinoitwa kumabrownies nekumagirl guides zvekuti mune muine maemblem kana zvinoitwa kunana rwadzano, mauniform, mabheji, or have your own special modes of speech. You can have your in jokes. You can even have your marks of belonging, prestige and acceptance. You can even have initiation rites, e.g. kurwadzano kuya munozonzi kana munofanira kuita prayer yerwadzano, zvinangwa zverwadzano, all these things just makes a person sometimes want to identify themselves with the group. Anozoti akasateedzera mutemo dzerwadzano anobviswa bhachi, anobviswa uniform. So you can make people identify, be part of the group or follow the rules by doing identification. Munhu anoziva kuti ukamutorera badge haachazikanwa mangwana kubvunza ko zvakafamba sei. Or do my sanctions. Those who don't do the right thing, they can be ignored, they can be ridiculed, they can be reprimanded, they can even experience physical hostility. Vanogona kutothreatenwa kunzi tokubuditsai mugroup as a final sanction. All right. But the group's power to induce conformity depends on the degree to which the individual values his membership. Kana munhu asingavalue membership yake, there is no way you can force the rules on them. Handiti? So it now depends with the importance of how that individual values being a member of that group. Reason yatinyataura nyaya dzemagroups nemainformal organization inyaya yemastudies akaitwa iwo naElton Mayo, Professor Elton Mayo, with the Hawthorne effect or the Hawthorne studies, and is a part of the Human Relations School of Management. So yakaita shed light on the importance of group within an organization. And the conclusion that was done was that informal groups exercise a powerful influence in the workplace, your informal organization ADI. So my supervisors and my managers, they need to take account of social needs if they wish to secure commitment to organizational goals. Study also showed that people tend to perform better when they believe they are being treated well and valued. Pane kama nekuti kulunch cheko maidongorwa nepawindo naMD, wotozodedzwa kuoffice, ko wabudirei nanhingi kuenda kulunch. Lunch awa kutozonzi enda wega uri one, handiti kukona kushora nanhingi. No man. Vanhu kwakonza mufanira kunge muchitaura nevanhu yoko munozobudisa information. Hai labor turnover ngeri pakamani ipapo yange yakaoma. All right, quickly, just unmute. Do you have any questions there? Are there any questions?
Not from my side.
Okay. All right.
Not on my side.
Now we want to proceed. Organizational structure. Sort of katamburatidzana type of organizational structure. Iyo inonzi functional departmentation. Munozoibata pa the, the normal organizational structures that we've always learned from commerce to business studies, but tongobata a bit about real ACCA specific. So organizational structures anotaurwa in a lot of ways. So we have Mintzberg ane organizational structure, components of the organizational structure. So Mintzberg believe that all organizations can be analyzed into 5 components. Inonzi 5 building blocks, and anonzi 55 building blocks according to Mintzberg. So Mintzberg anoti organization murikuona pakanzi middle line apa. Ipapa panofana pakanzi ipo strategic apex, and it's supposed to be the strategic apex there. Let me see if I can add a note or the way of Alright, but let me just take note. Strategic apex consists of strategic management or the top decision makers in the organization. Then also middle line, then also operating core, then also support staff, then technostructure. So these are the 5 components of the organization according to Mintzberg. Inogona kuyafuti ichinzi 5 building blocks. So tada kutaura kuti the ipi role each component. So the strategic apex, it ensures the organization follows its mission, manages the organization relationship with the environment. Anditika. So their preferred means of coordination, direct supervision, especially in small businesses. Then the operating core, as you can see, lower level. These people are directly involved in the process of obtaining inputs and converting them into outputs. The purpose here operating core iyoyo, converting inputs into outputs. Their preferred means of coordination, mutual adjustment, skills are standardized there. Then the middle line, as you can see, middle line converter the desires of the strategic apex anditika into the work done by the operating core. That's the purpose of the middle line. Converts the desires of the strategic apex into the work done by the operating core. Then their preferred means of coordination, standardization of outputs and results. Then there is the technostructure. So technostructure comprise of my analyzers, comprise of my planners, comprise of my personnel analysts. Please take note of that. Analyzers ndo determine the best way of doing a job. The planners determine outputs anditika kuti magoods anofanira kuproducwa akawanda sei and quality yachakamira sei. Then my personnel analysts ndovanostandardize my skills, e.g. training programs, etc. So their preferred means of coordination, the standardization of work processes or outputs. Then they support staff. So support staff ancillary services, e.g. public relations, legal counsel, the cafeteria, and etc. My support staff does not plan, it does not standardize production. They function independently of the operating core, and their preferred means of coordination is the mutual adjustment. So support staff, technostructure. If you check, vanenge varipo ipapa normally vanenge vachibatisisa pa middle line ipapa. All right, please take note of these definitions, especially the component and the job that is done. All right, then Mintzberg futi anima categories of the organization, and it apani ma components of the organization, what are my building blocks, and futi ma categories of the organization. And it so there is a simple structure. Arikuti iyi kune ma organization anoshandisa a structure inonzi simple structure. And this simple structure, please take note, it's centralized and it's often autocratic. Power is concentrated at the strategic apex. Power is concentrated at the strategic apex. Kutopuko ndo kune power, ndo kunoitwa ma decisions ikoko anditika. My decisions are centralized and are autocratic, so normally communication is from the top to the bottom. Control yacho inenge ichiexertwa by the chief executive or a small executive team. Structure E can be very flexible and informal, which are advantages there. Remember, we need flexibility, and also I'm sure informal tambotaroto, zvine coordination, zvine speed responsiveness, speed in communication, etc. But this structure is also very vulnerable, because if power and control is concentrated in the hands of a few, panija challenge. There could be abuse. Right. Machine bureaucracy. So machine bureaucracy rely heavily on a good technostructure. You need to have good planners, you need to have good analyzers, you also need to have good personnel analysts for this structure to work in an organization. Strategic planners and financial controllers are influential. Planners, personnel analysts, analyzers, ndivo vanenge vaine influence in an organization in a machine bureaucracy. And machine bureaucracy, organization in a machine bureaucracy, inenge ine multiple layers of management. Take note of that. Inenge ine formal rigid procedures, inenge ine standardized production processes. And in this structure, rigidness already, it's a disadvantage. We need flexibility. Motivation in this structure inoshandisa machine bureaucracy, it could be difficult because hamuna that aspect of interpersonal needs being met, social needs being met, all that. And my organization of this type, they are very inflexible most of the times. No quick response to rapid change in the environment, no speed in communication. Then professional bureaucracy, kune maorganization anoshandisa professional bureaucracy, and professional bureaucracy is based on clear lines of authority and standard practices. The practices are often built on standards set by law. So zvakafanira kuti vanoshandisa professional bureaucracy malawyer, their standards are set by law. Doctors, because standards vanosetwa neprofessional body of doctors. So ndopati mapractices avo zvavanoita ivo zvavanotedzera pakuita mabasa avo zvinosetwa by law, by regulations and independent external bodies. So such professional associations, e.g. law, accounting, doctor, and kana muchiti accounting muri kuteedzera zvamakadzidziswa zvinenge zvabuda musyllabus yeACCA. Kukambani kwenyu mukanzi mimi Juliet, ndoda kuti overreporte masales, ndizvo here zvinotaurwa kuaccounts? It's not. So unoteedzera zvataurwa nema-external bodies nema-professional association auri affiliated to. Kana uri doctor, your key response is to save lives. Hauudzwe zvekuita neadministrator wepahospital pakuita basa rako sadoctor. Ndosati kuti professional bureaucracy is based on clear lines of authority and standard practices, and these standard practices are set by law, regulations, or independent external bodies. The operating core now for professional bureaucracy, though the major coordinating influence, though you know influence for professional bureaucracy, vacho vari kuconverta inputs into output, vari kuita basa racho, ndo vane influence. And people in organizations that use professional bureaucracy, they are usually well motivated. So that's an advantage there. So if you check simple structure, vane influence is strategic apex. Per machine bureaucracy, vane influence is good techno structure. Per professional bureaucracy, vane influence is operating core. Take note of that. Divisionalize structures. So pane organization divisionalize structures, and a small central core provides guidelines for business units that enjoy a high degree of autonomy. Autonomy just means independence. The middle line forms a strong coordinating influence there, as it translates the demands of the central core into the objectives of the operating core. Central core ndochi strategic apex. Take note. So influence ye middle line inowanikwa mudivisionalized structure. Because mudivisionalized structure ndo matinenge tine madepartments or madivisions. All right. Then adhocracy. Adhocracy, what it just means is ad hoc, zvinyuka. And the adhocracy is task or project based, task or project based structures. And these are what we now need maswano, because they quickly respond to changing demands and e.g. rapidly evolving markets, technological innovation. Defined processes are less important as a result. research and development is usually the primary drive of advocacies, anditika. So in most organizations, tasks and people are grouped together in some way on the basis of specialization or shared technology or customer base, which is common. Kuti tinoti accounting department, vanoitawo zveaccounts vari kuaccounts, vanoitawo zvepeople management vari kuhr, vanoitawo zveproduction vari kuoperations. So this is known as departmentation. Handiti? Different patterns of departmentation are possible, and the pattern selected will depend on the individual circumstances of the organization. Please take note of exam focus point endai paACCA website. Mukaenda pakanzi students, moenda pakanzi study support resources, munoverenga pane pakanenge pane matechnical articles. Business technology munoverengawo pakanzi means-based theory on organization. Read that, it's very important. Hands exam focus point. Top tip. All right. Ndroti me unmute. Pane ma section ari kutera aya, ma topics ari kutera aya. Zvinhu zvakasobviro batwa kucommerce. You know, kubva mutange form 1. So I want you to go and read. There's not much. 2.3. Read on your own and master. Geographical departmentation, go and read on your own and master. Product or brand departmentation, customer departmentation, divisionalization, hybrid structures, the simple structure, and project organization, the new organization. So, and I go through that. It's simple. Kungobata zvazviri nekumadhisadvantage. Ndo work yenyamuri kunoita iyoyo. So ndakubata the new organization. So the new organization is what we want the organizations of today to become. Why? Because they focus on flexibility. We want my organizations that are flexible. All right. Noise on. All right. You can unmute kana usiri kundinzwa or anything like that. So the new organization, yatakuda, you know, that organizations of today have to follow because it's flexible. So the new organization should have flat structures. Handiti saka regati tangobata tibva tawirana panyaya dzeflat dzatokedzwa tova nezvadzo tikurevei. Tall and flat organizations, what are they? So recent trends have been towards delayering organizations of levels of management. Kudelaya kuremove mamwe levels of management in an organization. Handiti? So tall organizations, more organizations and many management levels and narrow spans of controls. And delayering trukuti susu, we are now turning tall organizations into flat organizations by removing levels of management on the organizational structure. So if you delay an organization, you remain with a flat organization which has fewer management levels and a wider span of control. This is normally caused by technological changes, and the advantages is that grants more decision-making power to frontline employees or lower-level employees. So a good example here is a tall organization. Makacheka in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers of management. Yazoitwa D-layer manje yabviswa management levels. Yangosara ne 1, 2, 3, which is ideal. And what are the advantages? Why do you think people want a flat organization? More opportunity for delegation. Because kana manager amashoma, it means subordinates awandisa. So it means task aurifanoita manager waukwanisa kumapa majuniors ndokudelegata. It's relatively cheap. Why? Fewer managers offices, fewer salaries. And also it speeds up communication between the strategic apex and the operating core. Mukacheka panapa pakuti information isvike kudenga uku yanga ichipfuura 7 levels, but panapa it's easy for information to quickly get to the MD because pane fewer levels. Vari against ma flat organization. Why are they against that? Requires that jobs can be delegated, so managers may only get a superficial idea of what goes on. If they are overworked, they are more likely to be involved in crisis management. If you over delegate, delegation ikasonyanya, manager anopesa asinyatsozivi zviri kunyatsoitika mukampani, which is not good. Anopesera kungozoinvolved in crisis management, which is not right. It also sacrifices control of the manager. Sacrifice control. Then also, middle managers are often necessary to convert the grand vision of the strategic apex into operational terms. Yet mukabvisa middle managers anozonyatsozoconverta the grand vision and strategic apex into operational terms ndiani panenge pasina. Okay, ko mato organization achakanakira chii? But atichamadika takuda maflat. Anyway, let's just talk about them. Narrow control, narrow spans of control. In short, manager ane fewer subordinates under him or he, now supervising fewer employees. Small groups enable team members to participate in decisions. I'm sure izvozvo mukazvicheka chero pamaWhatsApp. Group rine vanhu vakawandisa select 257, vanhu vashoma ndo vanonyanya participate. But group rine vanhu about 8 or 9, you notice kuti almost everyone participate. Handitika? A large number of steps on the promotional ladder. Zviripoka izvi. Ukabva paweka woita chargent, wabva pachargent woita supervisor, wabva pasupervisor assistant manager, wabva ipapo section manager, wabva ipapo department manager, wabva ipapo divisional, wabva ipapo woita MD. But wona kuflat kubva paweka supervisor department MD. So hapana a large number of steps on the promotional ladder. It also assists my managers in training and career planning, and it assists management training and career planning there. Koma disadvantages emato organizational structure anozoda kuti tide maflat ndeapi? Inhibits delegation. Delegation inoita shoma, yet we need it to empower lower level employees. Rigid supervision can be imposed. E.g. kana une vanhu vashoma unosupervisa, unozonyanya kuita close supervision, zvinobloka initiative and innovation. Then also, imwe disadvantage is the same work passes through too many hands. Vanhu vakawandisa kavo. So it increases administration and overhead costs. It also slows decision making and responses as the strategic apex is further away. So that's why we prefer the flat organization. Now let's go back to the new organization. So we prefer flat structures because they do away with levels of organization which are lengthened lines of communication and decision making. So flat structures, they are more responsive because there is more direct relationship between the organization strategic center and the operational unit serving the customer. All right. Then horizontal structures. Horizontal structures. Horizontal structure ndeapi aya? Okay, saka ndichapa an example here. Mukacheka kubva pana president, vice president, department head pakati apo supervisor operative apo. Normally ma-organization mazhinji ane vertical communication methods or vertical structure. In short, information no flow. It's either from top to down or bottom to up. Kashoma kuti information iflowe from department to department to department to, ndo horizontal watokuedza kuti pave ne-interdepartmental communication. Take note of that. So we now prefer my horizontal structures. Kwete tinoti information ofana ikabva kuna operative yoti supervisor yoti department head yoti vice president enda kuna president, president ozodzikisa zvobva kuna vice president zvoenda kuna department head that is long, handiti? So we now require my horizontal structures. There is increased recognition that functional versatility through multi-functional project teams and multi-skilling is the key to flexibility. Then we also now prefer chunked and unglued structures. What we mean is takuda decentralization. Hatichadi centralization yakanya in the new organization. We now prefer team working and decentralization. We now prefer empowerment. We now prefer creating smaller and more flexible units within the overall structure. Right. Then output focused structures. Organizations of the now should focus on results and on the customer. Be customer focused. Focus more on results and less on internal processes and functions for their own sake. So you need to go into the market, find out what the customers need, make that, and then come to the customer. Output focused structures. Then jobless structures. Employee should not become a job accountant. Apa degree wakaseta mna 1955. No. An employee should be a seller of skills. What do you have that is modern, that is required now? What is it about you that can help the organization to achieve? Not just kuti pana accounted, urkuite. So this is a concrete expression of the concept of employability, which says that a person needs to have a portfolio of skills which are valuable on the open market. So you need to keep on adding more and more skills on your CV. Not just ngoti ndira accounted, usina chauri kuedda value nacho. Virtual organizations. This is now common. Right now we're having a virtual lecture. So yako understanding needs to teacher. So a virtual organization, consists of individuals, teams, companies or stakeholders. Members are geographically dispersed, and they are geographically dispersed, and the organization exists electronically on the internet without any physical premises. Organization exists electronically on the internet without any physical premises. This creates cost savings from not having costs associated with physical locations, e.g. rent. A good example of a virtual organization that is doing very well is Amazon. Operator is a virtual retailer. So it does not incur the cost of retail premises. Hatisi kuti ine head office vanayo. Asi it's a retail retail organization, asi operator without retail premises. Haina mashopa munozopinda na TM nana Edgars. So these organizations are reliant entirely on technology. Ndizvo ndo disadvantage. Pakaitawo ma problems internet, business will go down. But Amazon is doing very well. Jeff Bezos is actually the richest man. Alright, muridzi Amazon founder. Alright, iyo Amazon yacho kada kucheka share price. Share price Amazon share rega I 3,473 per share US dollars. ndikatononge ipiri patop izvezvi. So there's this one. Or stock market yeku states. So oh my god. So there's this company called Warren Buffett, but apparently he's not the richest. All right, it's fine. Sorry, ndinongofarira kungostudy these things. He's not the richest man, but then Berkshire Hathaway organization yake ine share price ye 320,250 per share. Okay. All right. I hope I read right. It's fine. Okay. So let's proceed there. Then we also prefer the whole organization. We now want my organization are whole. Whole organization, please take note the features. People are my employees. People and activities are split between core and non-core competencies. Core means important, non-core is still important. So you split really core, really important is really important. All non-core processes and activities are outsourced. Then you retain the core processes and activities and the core employees. So a good example there is the sports shoe and clothing manufacturer, Nike, outsource production to subcontractors. But activity that is seen as core and important is product design. Kudesign kwebhutsu dziya dzenai dzamunoona dziya that is done in-house. Asi kuzodzigadzira kudzimanufacture zvinotosubcontractwa to some other people. So once you identify really important, you retain that function in-house. Zvisiri important, you outsource. So these organizations focus on their core activities. But however, for this to work, it now depends heavily on being able to find reliable contractors. Because munogona kuti maita design yenyu vanhu vacho vanomanufacture bhutsu oporonga bhutsu dzogadzira dzisina kusimba, hapana zvazvinobatsira. Then modular organizations. Take note of the features. Different elements or components of the product or service the organization produces is outsourced to different suppliers. The retained people in the organization, they assemble or combine these elements to produce the final product or service. Structure enables the organization to be more flexible and respond to market needs more quickly, but it also needs reliable suppliers because muri outsource some elements and components. So a good example there is a motor vehicle dealership may recognize that it sells repair and customer service modules. Take note, motor vehicle dealership haigadzire mota, inotengesa mota, so service. So yaona iyo kuti my elements ayo ema-sales ekurepair nekuita customer service, they are performing well. But yobva yaona kuti element ye-finance ne-accounting services are inefficient. What do? Vano outsource the module. Then there are also boundaryless organizations. I remove both the internal barriers that separate the hierarchy levels, different functions and different departments, and also remove the barriers between the organization and its suppliers, customers and competitors. So to help eliminate boundaries, managers use virtual, hollow or modular structures to eliminate bureaucracy and help to reduce cost. So boundaryless mukacheka could remove of all barriers or boundaries, be it internal, be it external. So pakushanda virtual, hollow and modular structures. What is the benefit? bureaucracy or complex procedures are eliminated, and also it reduces my cost. So this is the new organization. We want my organizations of today to be like this. Musanakidzwa nezvimataito nezvimatoo chichi zvimastructures length communication channels and protocols. It's not really good for the business. Span of control. All right. Span of control or span of management refers to the number of subordinates responsible to the superior. And the span of control refers to the number of subordinates immediately reporting to a superior supervisor. So a good example, inini supervisor under me pana Julie na Prudence. So span of control yangu i2, Julie na Prudence. So I'm the supervisor, Julie and Prudence are my subordinates, but Julie, under Julie, pana Livingston na Primrose. Span of control yangu still remain 2, Julie na Prudence, not 4. And this could tell ma immediate subordinates are Julie, Livingston na Primrose. They were Julie, not me. So in other words, if a manager has 5 subordinates, the span of control is 5. A number of factors influence the span of control. Chinozoita kuti manager apiwe masubordinates akawanda kana kuti mashoma. So a manager's capabilities, anditika pane physical and mental limitations, then the nature of the manager's workload, apart from supervisory work, ane rimwe basa rakaita sei, anditika the more non-supervisory work in a manager's workload, the narrower the span of control, because kana basa rakawandisa rina supervisory, you then can't have a lot of subordinates to supervise. And also the greater the delegation of authority to subordinates, because the more non-supervisory work that you have, it means you are now even delegating more to your subordinates so that you work on a lot of issues. Then also determine geographic dispersion of subordinates. How far are they from the supervisor? Dispersed teams require more effort to supervise. So if you're far away from each other, it means a narrower span of control. Right. Delayering, I think we talked about this. So also just go and read on delayering. Then let me just touch on outsourcing and offshoring so that you note the difference. But topic yacho yedu takamboita kune vakakava, iwo Prudence tinozokava, ndinozokutumira the lecture. So outsourcing, as explained in chapter 2, is the contracting out of specified operations or services to an external vendor. Anditika no outsourcing. But pane a related concept inonzi offshoring. So outsourcing tikuti involve an organization sending work to an external organization. Offshoring involve sending work overseas. So this work that is sent overseas may still be done within the organization. For example, a UK bank sets up its own call center in India. That is offshoring, but is not outsourcing. Because basa racho ringoitwa ni same company iyoyo, asi zviringoitwa kuIndia. Asi if a UK business contracts with an external call center based in India to deal with customer service telephone inquiries, that is both outsourcing and offshoring. Outsourcing pakuti contractor to an external vendor, an external organization. Offshoring pakuti basa racho rikuitwa overseas. So take note of those differences. Please unmute. Manzwisisa here difference apo before we move on.
Outsourcing is a bit clear, but offshoring, can you go over that again?
All right, so offshore, this is when we are sending work overseas. And offshoring can either be done within the organization. You can send work overseas within the organization. So ndopa good example tomboti Econet Wireless. Econet Wireless inobva yacreata Econet Wireless India.
Okay.
Econet Wireless yoti customer service inquiries eEconet haiitirwe haadererwe muno muZimbabwe. Cost yekuzviita inodhura. Rega Econet Wireless India iite iyo zvema-customer service inquiries. So basa richiri kuitwa neEconet Wireless, so haisi outsourcing, because hazvina kupiwa an external organization, zvichiri within the organization. Asi takuzviti offshoring because we have sent work overseas. Macause Econet evanhu vachichema-chema vemuZimbabwe anoderwa nevashandi veEconet vari kuIndia. No wonder iri offshoring.
Okay.
Asi Econet Wireless tomboti haina rimwe branch reEconet kuIndia. Econet yoti makosi kuti aderwe muZimbabwe zvinotidhurira. Pane kambani inonzi iyo Z-World Communications ino-offer cheap cost and ine cheap infrastructure for receiving customer service inquiries. Ngativapei basa rekudera makosi ezvichemo zvevanhu vemuZimbabwe zveEconet adererwe kuIndia. Iyoyo it's both outsourcing because tapa work ye-customer service inquiry to an external company, i-offshoring zvakare because basa racho rasendwa overseas. Kabatika?
I get it, yeah.
Right. That's fine. Thank you for asking. Ndinobva ndafara chaizvo. So offshoring is often used by organizations who want to make use of cheap labor. Chichinotorwa send work overseas. People want to make use of cheap labor in the overseas market. My disadvantages manje offshoring come from possible cultural barriers, language barriers, and also loss of customer focus. Vanhu vari kuIndia vanenge vasingatombozivi zvinhu zvisi zvekusoro kuti kuZimbabwe vanhu vanoda kubatwa so hapana, because offshoring company haina day-to-day contact with its customers. Havatozivi kuti macustomers akanyatsombomira vanozonzwa zvazvichemo. So panoita loss of customer focus, then all my language barriers, then also issue to do with culture. Okay, shared service approach. All right, quickly. So under shared services approach, a single service center is established to provide the support function across an organization. Previously, the service may have been provided in a more fragmented way. So what we just mean by shared service approach, please take note. Trikuti is an organization in an accounts department, human resources department, IT department, operations, marketing, HR. Organization, but you know what? Instead of saying each branch eat these individual services, mamwe acho ngaasheyiwe with all the branches. Vobva vatiwo IT neHR ngazvisheyiwe with all the branches. But hatisi kuzongoti it's a department. It's going to be called a shared services business unit. In short, IT neHR idzi dzinenge dzichitori accountable for delivering the service to agreed service levels. All these other branches will be like customers to these shared services, IT neHR. So it's like you're serving customers. So the quality of the service will be higher. So the shared services approach aim to enable better use of resources across the organization because hapana duplication. So it results in lower costs, but also protection of agreed service levels. Because makutreata mamwe ma-services sema-customers, mamwe ma-branch sema-customers. So the quality then improves as well. So normally IT and HR are two functions often seen as suitable for the shared services approach, but the approach could be applied to a wide range of activities. Disadvantages shared services approach ndeyekuti services are likely to be less tailored and more generic, and also that there is less job diversity within the organization. Those are the disadvantage. All right, so that's our work for today. Thank you vedwe vanosenda mapresent Julie na Primrose. Ndinotenda vanangu, ndinotenda ende muchaona kuti kamubatsiro kamunozoita kanosiyana nevamwe vasingadi zvokutumira mapresentation vaivaya ana Livingstone. Tendichikona izvedu vanangu, Livingstone natafadzwa. So prudence zvatinoita, pane mamwe matopics iyi yedu yakarebesa syllabus yedu, and it being theory it also requires active participation. So mamwe matopics unoona ndinozotaura kuti aiwa zvimwe zvacho zvinongoda kuti umuverenge, hazvina that much pressure nekuti mese patakaenrola takatoona kuti aiwa English iripo. Mukaona memes vanenge vachitsanangura English kuti izvi zvacho izvi ndomongo iyo akaichendozoti hapana paunozobva weBPP pane meeting yatorombe neBPP vekuyo vakati hapana patinozomboti tinobva papage 1 kusvika last page vaitoti hakuna teaching yakadaro maticha. It also involves the student also participating. So subject rambozi rinokotsirisa rakakurisa syllabus yacho. Mukacheka mamwe masubject F2 neF2 zvinokasika kupedzeka. So I then introduce these presentations. Go and read that, send my audios. My audio ingori confirmation yekuti vanangu maverenga mapfuura nepo chete. Handiti so ndikumbura kuti me unmute. All right. So Juliet, uchasomera presentation yako 3.3, 3.4. Actually no, ita 3.3.
Okay. All right.
Then tine munyowani uyu takatawo iyo 3.4 handiti ndo yaunopresent. Kupresent hakusi kuverenga word for word mwana, kutaurawo in your own words. Even if fair, but I tried by own to bring real life examples. So then Primrose 4 ndeyako.
Sorry ma'am, andinakunzwa.
Okay, rega ndipinde muchat option maybe. Okay, so Juliet ukabata 3.3. Open paste paper. 3.3. Then 3.4. The prudence 3.4. Then Primrose 4. So these audios and digital my audio aya, if you check type it option kuti yekurecorda, but the last time pandakamboitrai mundengonzwa unaizoti hanzi hatisi kunzwa. So munosenda marecording muwhatsapp. Internet yedu yakazogadziriswa, so I'm now able to download. Then take note, kana Julia senda audio handiti move munoteererawo Primrose naPrudence. Kana muine mubvunzo modii? Kana muine mubvunzo muvhunza ndizvo. Then Primrose akatumirawo Julie pamwe zvine zvakapusa hazvo, but ndinoda kuti mupote muchiacknowledge kuti tadi tanzwa. Prudence chakuedha muwhatsapp group racho nhasi unotumira message kuti memuti edhe muwhatsapp group. So ndiri kuda maaudio emangwana before 12 mangwana. Please take note. Muri kuona tatopedza topic nhasi. Mangwana please take note. Nhasi anoda kutoti titorova 2 yemasikati nemanheru, but well pazoshaya batika. Mangwana 1 to 3 vanenge varipo ngatibatanei tite topic. Recording munoiona vamwe vacho. It will be a good nice recording. Hapana zvinenge zvakambonyatsosiyana. You also go through that, especially on my weekends aya ndo pamunechita catch up. Mangwana hatisangani. Lesson yedu tosangana on what? Tosangana on Wednesday, the traditional one. But yemasikati vanokwanisa ndozotonga kuti munoenda kubasa, ndikazotsiya basa miti zvelecture. Vanokwanisa vacho, you just join me. Prudence unoenda kubasa?
No, handiendi.
Alright. So Prudence ndiye wanda kutongoshanda naye. Zvinozoti Prim naJulie munogona muri occupied nebasa. So Prudence bune izoda anenge achindizoti network iri right here. Prudence ndiye wandiendi naye masikati. Ndino malabel amalecture acho kuitira kuti muzozoti pazvaitwa kusvika papi kuti muzoona. I hope you are comfortable with this. The reason I'm doing it is the syllabus is very long. And handisi kuti munhu wekuti ndoda kuti vanhu munonyora ndisina kunge takavha matopic munonyora musina kukavha. Ndinenge ndichida kuti at least pamunononyorawo takavha matopic. So ndo dzandee ndichiitira kuti at least tikasangana masikati nevanokwanisa recording munozongoita go through maweekends aya. I know discipline wise it's a mammoth task, but it's my plea kuti mungowanawo that time to go through that recording. Manheru aiwa malesson etinoita iwaya handiregedze kuti timaita. So I hope you are also comfortable with that approach. If you feel kuti no, but ndiri kuitirawo futi kuti ndisazoiti chewe kuti 5 topics idzi 3 months dzedu dzakwana tichakwanise kudziita. I feel it's not really fair. So I've come up with a plan that, you know what, we can actually go through all the topics. But then kana taita go through mamwe acho munozomawana kuma recording. Pari sei?
It's a good arrangement.
Okay. But what I would then do is matopic andine ndichiona kuti aya they are easy to grasp and all ndo andinogona kuita masikati. Andinoziva kuti hapana pekuzoti mem pakati handina kunzwisisa mapabata. Asi even mukaona murecording kuti panenge pasina kunzwisiswa musanyara kutaura. Tumirei kana ipopo paSkype group yedu kana kuWhatsApp group mem pakati pada kutsanangurwa nditsanangure ndizvo. I believe in openness, in communicating, and handidi vanhu vanogunun'una. To me, I won't sleep well. So it's okay if pane wana angu confirm handikuzoti ndiPrim here kana ndiJulie.
NdiJulie.
Okay, co-Primrose.
Yes, ma'am, it's okay.
All right, it's fine. Ndiri kuitira tikasike tapedzawo syllabus. Aiwa zvinofamba zvakanaka. Subject racho rinopasika zvakanaka zvisingaiti. Musatye zvenyu. Rinopasika zvisingaiti. I remember there was a guy wandakatoita naye former topic vazoshaya mari. I just emphasized he did my topic ari crucial. So munopasa, don't worry. And it is my hope that you are enjoying the learning. And today I'm so happy that we finished the topic. I hope I wasn't rushing too much, and I also hope kuti ndanga ndichipawo my real life examples. So that's fine. And I'm noverenga nhasi ndikukupa assignment. ene munoverenga zvandakumbira kuti muverenge. Remember kuma 2 point yakadaro kubva pafunctional departmentation kusvika pamatrix. Go and read on that and understand, and then also go and read the short presentations that you're supposed to do tomorrow. So for today it's bye for now. Tozosangana mangwana vanokwanisa palunch, but prudence iwo handichato kuti unokwanisa watopo toonana mangwana. It's fine. So
Okay,
bye
cool.
bye.
Thanks.
All right.